You want them to speak?
Under Sheriff, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Mr. Fox, how are you today?
I'm just fantastic. I'm doing better now that I can see your face.
Yes, thank you. I know you're lying, but that's okay. I thought that was it. Here, then.
You're just listening. I'm getting you a sheet to sign, a couple of them.
Oh, to sign.
Asking for an autograph. No big deal.
I'm gonna ask for a couple of these autographs.
No big deal.
You guys want to speak on the topic tonight?
You guys want us to stay in? Is that different?
Are you with Long Up?
I am. Your local login.
Did you watch the Orlando New York game? It was sad to see Megan go down for Rapinoe in the first 10 minutes. And it was just like, it's a horrible way to close out her career.
We went to the New York
Thorns.
game.
I was more frustrated watching that game.
We went to extra time, so half hour more. It was 0-0 score.
Like, our first half was just pathetic. And they had a great second half, just nothing they could put together. We were watching, I was like, oh. I thought might benefit our team, but no.
In case David's not here, I'll pass him.
23.
Always made three.
Yeah, that's new. They just started that.
Well, old
50
man,
years ago.
usually the mayor does it.
No.
Where that's it.
Yeah, that one hadn't changed.
Was it supposed to be David tonight or it's supposed to be Pat tonight?
I think David, must be David.
Certified.
Yeah.
Certified, yeah.
Well, not till January 1 anyway, right?
All right, I call the meeting order at 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for being here. I would invite you to join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so this is public comment period. There's also some public comment included in the packet. So is there someone here that would like to address city council? introduce yourself, give us a little over before you start speaking.
My name is Perry Colburn. I'm from North Bonneville, and what I'd like to do is change up the public comment a little bit tonight. And I would
How are
like
we
to
doing that?
I would like to pay tribute to a mentor and a hero of us all, which is Gloria Howe, who passed away this last week, as you all know. So what I'd like to do is just bow my head in tribute to her, as she offered so much to our community and to our county and the state of Washington as a leader, a mentor, and a hero. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to bow my head and honor Gloria in this 2.5 minutes I have left.
Thank you for your tribute.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council? Barry?
Yes, thank you very much, Member Parr Stevenson. First, I hope that the Chinidir remand order and the lawsuit got to the city council, the planning commission, and to the attorney. Your email came back, Robert. So I had asked Leanna where I would send it, and I don't know if she forwarded it to you or not, but I hope she did. I think it's important that that be in the record. The remand order has not been followed, and I think it should be. So I think they'll need to take a look at that remand order and the original lawsuit and what the planning commission stipulated happens in Chinidir. Seems every time development happens, it gets chinched back if it becomes too expensive for the developer to do some things, and that's not what our city needs. Secondly, fireworks. I also sent in comments after the last fireworks workshop, and I would like those to be in the record. One thing that is not considered in the municipal code is the health effects of fireworks. And I included some articles on that. There's titanium and all sorts of bad stuff in fireworks, and we're putting them on at the fairgrounds near the kids' playground. And we have for years and years and years, and I think that ground should be tested for all these minerals and all these bad things and fireworks. I can't remember the whole list, but there's a whole list, and there are health effects from fireworks, and those need to be considered in any discussion. And third, I would also like the city to start thinking about the old Grange building. We need a community space, a community center, and that is 4,000 square feet. The county, of course, has allowed it to fall into disrepair and disuse and this abuse and everything else. It's in a great location. It can be used, if it's rehabilitated, it can be used for 24/7 instead of spending money on things like the courthouse plaza, which can't be used all year round. Perhaps we need to work on a community center that everybody can use 24/7, undercover and available to the entire community. Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? All right. comments, anything? On Zoom?
It's just Joanna.
Oh, very good. All right, there have been some changes to the agenda and those are detailed here. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. First and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Did I get yours, Christie?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, sheriff's report.
Supplied documents for the month of October for you to take a look at. And are there any questions about what you see our activity has been?
Thank you. Anybody have any comments, or questions based on that report? All right.
I'll talk to you offline.
So there was a meeting between the city and the sheriff's department, and it looks like there was some consensus on the new agreement, interlocal agreement. Have you all had a chance to peruse that? I would entertain a motion to approve that, unless there was some further discussion up front.
Dave, give further discussion up front. Know about that.
Cagey.
Wow. All right. No, I think when we got done, I think it's a fair and equitable, moving forward. That's what I was looking for from you. Yeah, maybe I'm more.
And I'll tell you, if you're ever in a contract negotiation, you want Dave Cox on your side.
What?
Why is that?
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I want to thank you both for taking the time to address it.
We got some issues figured out and, move forward, and I think we're gonna be okay. All right. So I would move to accept the contract as presented.
Need a dollar amount on it?
No.
That is
Okay,
fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Yeah, well,
Gotcha.
yeah.
fair enough.
Is it
Still fuzzy.
Christie.
Seconded.
Christie, second, first and second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It spans 2 years, the next year we're done.
We have a guest here for our presentation. So we have, Janine. Are you, well, oh, there you are. I was gonna write this in. You guys want to, introduce yourselves and, hear your presentation?
I'm Janelle Boyan with Western Gore Jackson Programs. I run the food banks for Clickitat Community Counties. And Patty Nichols here runs the Skamania County Food Bank here in Stevenson, and has been doing it for 16 plus years.
Jeez.
Almost 18 years. Yeah, 18 years. So we just came to kind of give you guys the highlights, lowlights, whatever lights, regarding food banking. Across the board, our numbers are going up. Cost of food is going up. Donations are going down. Here in Stevenson, it's up about 30%, which is pretty much the same story everywhere in our food banks. We have the most staff we've had in a long time, because it is a lot of work to do food banking. Patty shares her time between Stevenson and the Vingen office, helping steer the helm on all food banking and all staff and volunteers and stuff. And so funds that we receive from the city go towards some of the overall cost, and sometimes towards food, very minimal towards food that we ask for specific grants for. Generally, like United Way and things like that. But everything helps. From the monetary donations to people's time, to people just spreading the word about how to help, and clients, we don't need help with that. They know where we're at. They know that our services are good across the board. We always try to make our food boxes that we hand out on a monthly basis, and then some. be full rounded. I mean, everything from meat to highly nutritious vegetables to even top ramen for the kiddos who can cook for themselves. You want to speak some more?
Some more? I haven't done any yet.
Perfect.
No, I don't know. She pretty much covered it. People come in, they're hungry, we give them food. There is no criteria that they have to squeeze into in order to come in and get a food box. It's my favorite part about my job. I never have to tell them no. They don't have to meet an income guideline. They don't have to, you know, oh, you have to live it here or you have to be over there, or they need food and we can give it to them. We do try to make it so that the food in the boxes you can actually prepare a meal out of. We try to pair things together so that somebody, you know, if we have spaghetti pasta, we make sure we put spaghetti sauce and that kind of stuff in together. I try to do that with breakfast, lunch, and dinner if we have those items in order to make them just fit better together. But we also have to keep in mind the food doesn't go as far as it used to because we're not getting as much and there are more people. So we have had to significantly drop the amount of weight that we're giving out to each family now, which they noticed, but we have to make it stretch. And we've been purchasing much more food than we have had to in the past.
Where do you get your donations from?
Well, we get local donations. Today, we actually got 38 turkeys donated today, which was super nice. But we also get food from Northwest Harvest and from the USDA and from, what's the Clark County one? Just Clark County?
Clark County Food Bank.
Yeah.
Surplus food.
Yeah, those are the big ones that we get a lot of food from. We also work with, I don't know the name of Bobby's Food Bank.
We do Better Relief, which is an organization that I started partnering up with. They're based out of Portland. They get their food from a number of different places, including like Amazon and local grocery stores and stuff like that. Give them in their warehouse, and they go and do projects up and down the I-84 and 205 corridor. They do a lot of like the fire relief, or they go and do mass distributions, especially during COVID, that we were able to help with at that time, because at that time WSDA, who we work with for a lot of our food from USDA Foods. When COVID hit, they went hard and heavy with the food, but our clientele diminished down because no one wanted to go out, chance getting COVID, and so to speak.
Increased SNAP benefits.
SNAP went through the roof, and then stimulus checks and everything else. And so because of the food went up, quantities and the numbers went down, we were able to share our access at the time. Now when it's reversed, they're sharing their access with us, bringing it to us, or we're going to pick up.
So do you have a truck that you go like into Clark County and pick up, or do they deliver?
No, Clark County doesn't deliver. We also pick up at Dave's Killer Bread every other week, which is really, really wonderful. So thanks to COVID, there was an excess of funds that went out to help with the relief agencies. And so we were able to buy an 18-foot reefer truck. It was the very first time in my history of food banking of 20 years that I've ever bought anything brand new. And she's gorgeous. So it makes our lives so much easier to be able to go pick up and drop off. When we drop off at the Stevenson Food Bank, we just drop the lift gate, drop the food off, and we can go on our way, and she doesn't have to hand unload out of the back of a truck that's, way up here. So it has made it much nicer, and I was able to buy some electric pallet jacks, a new walk-in freezer. So now I have two, so I can actually handle the kind of frozen foods, because when donations changed, sorry if I'm taking a lot of time. When donations changed, we went to more fresh and frozen and a lot less dry products, which is great that we're getting more products in those, and so to speak, but it's a lot harder on our clients.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have to say, sorry, you got to take all this refrigerated and frozen stuff, and this is how much dry stuff you get.
There's also a recent program, the Carson Elementary School.
The food food recovery program that we recently started. It's going pretty great.
And I wanted to bring up that we're looking for volunteers for that. So if anyone wants to help out with that, please just talk to me.
We're also looking for people who want the animal food. If anybody has pigs or chickens, we get the waste as well so that it doesn't go into a landfill. And so far, we haven't had to throw any away. We do have a few people, but,
Like heads of lettuce and stuff like that, that
Half-eaten hamburgers.
yeah, it's food that has been that isn't, so we can take things like an apple that hasn't been bitten into or doesn't have any marks on it from a kid's fingernail or something that, you know, we can still wash it and it's usable. We can use the milk that hasn't been opened. But if there's even a donut with one bite out of it, that's not something that we can redistribute. So any and all of that kind of stuff goes into buckets, and then it gets dropped off twice a week at the food bank, and anyone who has animals can come down and grab that, and they just bring us back the empty buckets next time they pick up. So we're literally trying to use all of it, not let any of it go to waste.
Well, thank you.
Carson?
The Carson Elementary School is the one that is doing that. And I think they're hoping maybe it will catch on to some of the other schools, but so far it's kind of just a pilot program that they're trying out.
And it's Dana and my wife that's.
Oh, she's your wife? She's so nice. I was just texting with her. I actually have the buckets she wants in my
Oh,
car.
well, you can put them in the back of that green truck. out there.
They're not, the buckets, they're in my car and I'm in her car. If I'd known you was gonna be here.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, ladies, for all that you do. You're welcome to stick around.
We're good.
Bye. If you have any more questions in the future, feel free to give us a holler or stop by, because she'll put you to work.
God knows where I'm at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we did have a public hearing scheduled for the utility rates. That study and restructuring is not ready. So we'll be looking at that at a future meeting, looking like next month's meeting. But we do have the public hearing for the 2024 proposed property tax levy. So I would like to open the public hearing for the 2024 proposed property tax levy at 6:18. Step report, Lana.
So the budget that we have proposed includes the 1% increase as well as any increases due to construction. We haven't done any annexations. It helps to balance the budget. So without this increase, we would have to make additional cuts.
All right, is there anybody in the public that would like to comment? Anybody still just Joanna? All right, seeing none, we will close public hearing at 6:19. All right, council, discussion, comment?
In the past, it's always been, I mean, we do this every year, right? Same.
The CPI and the cost increases, inflation is typically exceeds the 1%.
Right.
So.
And 1% is the most we can do without going to a vote of people. Is that
Right.
correct?
So you're looking at $5,480 total.
There might be a new construction in there
Right.
within the resolution. So it's closer to probably about 15,000 total between when you add new construction.
We went over this, what's needed and so I have no new discussion.
All right, there's a two-part process. We have to vote on the resolution and then proceed on to approving the ordinance.
Okay, well, motion to approve resolution 2023-421, authorizing an increase in property tax for fiscal year 2024.
Should there be an amount, like percentage on that?
It's
motion?
included within the resolution.
Okay.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance 2023-1199, fixing the amount to be raised by ad valorem taxes and levied for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. She said aye.
Okay. All right,
Anyway, I saw her lips.
moving on to, thank you all very much for that. Second, public hearing. I'd like to open public hearing for the 2024 proposed budget at 6:21. Staff report.
So there were some minor changes to the larger document that we had talked about at the last council meeting. And then the biggest one being the tourism advisory fund change. Those contracts which you just authorized, and the contracts will be at the next meeting, but those dollar amounts were added to the budget. And I think when we talked last, everything balances. So.
All right. Now, if there's any comments from the public, this would be the time.
I do want to make one more comment is later on in the agenda, there is a Public Works Board loan award. If we do move forward with that, that will also need to be added, as well as we're looking at a revised estimate for another project. So there is already going to be a budget amendment. But yeah, it's right. Yeah, yeah.
Any comments from the public? Mary?
Mary Rapar Stevens, I just would like to know if there's anything in the budget for the landscaping, putting in the new trees and upkeeping the older trees, like hiring an arborist to come take a look at them, make sure they live past 20 years. Because our city looks way, way better when we have shade trees all over, and I know there's a lot of empty spots yet, so I didn't read your budget, but if that could be included, that would be really wonderful.
So the street fund was one of the funds we were having challenges balancing. And so we can look to see if there are other costs to see where that can come from, but I didn't put anything specifically in for trees for next year. But
we're pursuing a DNR grant for new trees and tree maintenance, but yeah, they've got quite a bit of money to give this year. So yeah.
You've got a lot of buy-in on your ideas.
They help everything.
And so then,
as far as the landscaping's going, we are working, partnering with SCA to continue to work on keeping downtown landscaping and up to expectation.
And the bushes at Russell and Second. Oh,
I know,
see
right?
the damn
Yeah,
things.
always.
Yeah, flowers.
Any further comment? All right, close public hearing 6:24. Council?
I have a question about the equipment service fund.
Mhm.
It's jumped quite a bit from 2023. Can you tell me why?
so one of the things that we were looking at doing is catching up on some of the equipment that we need. And so are you talking about just the overall budget, or are you talking about the capital expenditures?
Well, I'm looking at capital expenditures from $100,000 up, it's jumped up to 530,000.
Yeah, so 80,000 of that is for public workshop, because the property that it's on is being taken over by the wastewater treatment plant, so we don't have enough room for all of the equipment that we do have. And then the remaining 450 thousand is for a used 5-yard dump truck, which is be about 20,000. A new truck for staff, which is now running at $100,000. And then a used wheel loader grader for $100,000, and then a new sweeper for new used sweeper for $250,000. So that's what that entails. And the reason, so some of those things, the sweeper, for example, is having regular challenges. And one of the pieces of equipment was also slated for next year. We had it scheduled out. If we are financing though, we would rather put it all together in 1 year versus doing a financing package this year and then a financing package next year. And so.
I think we talked a little bit, Dave, last year about instead of getting into a habit where we buy like the used equipment from the county that they are getting rid of because it's breaking down for them every day, and running that into the absolute ground so we get nothing back for it when we go to surplus it. We're spending a lot of man hours to maintain. When we go to use the sweeper, we spend at least an hour every single day, every single time fixing something that has gone wrong. And so we are in the habit of doing that with a few of our different vehicles. And so I'd really like to get us into a situation where we are rotating them out so that they still have some value when we go to sell them. And so these are not new vehicles that we're looking at, but we aren't looking at like scraping the bottom of the barrel. So we have to invest a lot of staff time to make them operational every time we go to use them as well. So
Grader, how much is in there for the grader?
grader.
Yeah, loader grader, 100,000 used.
I have challenges with equipment just sitting and doing nothing.
Which
And
is why a loader grader rather than just a straight grader
Mhm.
is a better option for us. So now we would have a tool that serves more than one function.
I can appreciate that.
Oh, and I didn't mean I'm sorry.
But I'm weighing $100,000 of tax money versus how much usage we're getting out of that in a year. So that's what I'm struggling
That piece of equipment specifically.
with.
Yeah, so until we are able to pave all the city streets, we still do have a number of streets that need to be maintained that are gravel. So that's where
Carolyn, I haven't seen that much equipment moving around on the gravel roads and gravel streets in the city in the last year and a half.
No, you have, well, we surplus the grader and we used the county's one the last time we needed to do the Kanaka Creek overpass road. However, the county's not as much into a loaner mood as they used to be. So that we continue to, build that relationship, but at the same time, like we should have our own equipment to maintain our
Oh,
own.
and I agree with that
Mhm.
to a point. When I've got $100,000 piece of equipment sitting, and we only use it, 5 or 6 times a year to grade the underpass road or something else, or
Mhm.
some little short street because we haven't got it paved. I have challenges with sitting on $100,000.
What's
piece of
the,
equipment.
how many years do you think you're gonna get out of that piece of equipment?
I think our equipment, ideally you would keep it like 10 to 15 years and then you would surplus it and you would go back because then you would have enough. You
That's
get
what we
something
have some
back
meat on
for
the
it
bone for the surplus portion of it.
rather than keep it so long that you get nothing for it. And you have to work every time. So the loader piece, the loader component of a loader grader, that's the snow, like it's a snow plow, like it's a heavier duty snow plow at that point. So when it's snowing, that piece of equipment gets used every day to plow.
And it helps us get up to our water sources in the snow where we can't take our normal trucks and plows because it gets so heavy.
There's a safety concern with them walking it too, and that's kind of what they did last year.
Well, I just want to go on record.
Wanna make sure
As
we-
money gets tighter, as budgets get tighter, I think we need to really work on combining services with other agencies. And if we need to work on the relationship with the county in regards to their equipment versus our equipment, or the PUD or whoever that might be, I think we really need to put that as a high priority to make sure that we've got those in place so that we don't have to be buying every piece of equipment and then the county has to buy their pieces of equipment. That's the same equipment. It doesn't make any sense.
I think some of the challenges is a lot of our equipment is seasonal. So like the sweeper is seasonal, the grader is seasonal. If they have it at the same time, like we need them at the same time is I think a lot of the, the challenges, the pieces of equipment that sit, it's because they're largely seasonal. And so when you need it, but they need it at the same time. So there's that, I think there's that component of sharing equipment as well.
And where they need it too is not close to us when they need it. So.
But I can.
Just so
I
you
can
know,
do a little more
just so you
research
know
on
where
that piece of equipment.
I'm coming from on, when I'm looking at budgets and I look at things like equipment purchases,
Mhm.
and I'm going, now, wait a second. I've got $100,000 piece of equipment sitting there that we're going to use for this portion of time. When I had a construction company, my big pet peeve was I had two parts of the construction company. I had the remodel and new construction, then I had the excavation side. Well, guess who paid all of the bills for the excavation side in the wintertime? It was the new construction remodel side that had to make those payments because the equipment was just sitting there doing nothing. So that's my challenge. And I would just, I would invite you to take a closer look at some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, with this larger outlay than we've seen recently, what are we looking at next year for the next budget?
I think our annual, we're hoping to get at 100, 150. So to be able to get back to doing the trucks, like, do a truck every year. So again, those, we get some sort of money back from those and then build up a reserve so that when it comes time to, purchase a piece of equipment 10 years down the road, we have that.
So it sounds like we're
Cash
looking at
flow.
15-ish years on this new equipment, back down to the palatable 100,000 that we're used to for the next several years.
Right. And so because we're talking about a loan, the amount of money to pay off that loan would be something. And I think the number that you're seeing is not, that would be like the full payment amount, right? And
Yeah.
but our loan would be a much smaller number than.
Yeah,
that's
530
actually
is for the total package.
Yeah,
And then you pay on that
we
loan.
would be paying on that loan.
And,
Yeah.
and this will come back to council to approve that financing package.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want you to know where I'm coming from.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have the data, so we have the numbers. We know every month like how many hours equipment is being used. And so I could see that being a really interesting chart.
So would you consider this an ER&R fund?
it is.
Okay. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Who's gonna dive in?
Oh, are you ready for a motion?
I am.
How about this, then I'll make a motion to, make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-1202, adopting the 2024 budget as presented, period.
Second period.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Budget approved before December 31. Amazing.
Just in case there's a snowstorm and no one wants to.
That's awesome.
All right, who is going to present the update on the sewer ordinance update?
I can do a general update on this. So we've had 2 meetings with the committee. The last meeting was about 3 hours long, and it was kind of a deep dive on the topic. And we got a lot of feedback that staff is now taking and will be putting into, based on the feedback that we're getting, it's going to be multiple documents. So there's going to be the ordinance that the committee will talk about at the next meeting, as well as potential changes to the finance policy. And that's over how we pay for things. It'll talk about debt. It'll talk about how we pay for capital projects and those types of things. And then there also, the other component is our capital improvement program, which is where projects are outlined and prioritized. And then ultimately the budget, which is where you actually fund the things to happen. So those are kind of the 4 documents that we'll be discussing and trying to work with the committee and make sure that what we have presented is what we're hearing from them on how on their feedback on how things should move forward. So does that summarize? I mean, there's still work to do with the committee, and so we're meeting on December 4th. So again, make sure that we're on the right track, and there's still some decision points that need to be made. So I don't know that we'll get to full consensus at the committee level, but what we'll be presenting to council will be all of that feedback on where we had consensus, where we didn't have consensus, as well as other potential next steps that came out of the committee that aren't sort of in any of those 4 buckets. So I know it's very general. That's where we're at right now. I did post the notes and the documents from the first meeting on the website. The committee wants to approve the notes before they're published. And so that's why the second meeting notes haven't been put on that website yet. But once they are updated, that's where they'll be uploaded to.
All right, next up is first reading, potentially approving tonight, the fire chief ordinance. This is come up the last joint meeting. We did a pretty good job of hammering that out. So if this looks good, then you can motion, or you can wait till next month.
Discussion wise, I'm totally fine with the way that we got pretty good consensus from them. There was some wording changes that they would have liked, but I mean, I think it went really well. So I have no issue with it.
All right.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-1200, amending chapter 2.4 of the volunteer fire department as presented.
Second.
Christie gets it.
All right, first and second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and then we did have a workshop on fireworks and how a ban on recreational fireworks would be impacted.
The use of.
Right, correct, as opposed to the sale of. So that is there for your perusal. This is also considered the second reading. So I think this pretty much captures what we've been talking about, but I'd love to hear some conversation on that.
What would you love to hear conversation about it?
Um,
We had a lot of conversation about it.
Yeah, we sure did.
We had a lot of conversation.
Quite a conversation.
I think it is a good equitable I think that using the metrics that the fire marshal presented. And then linking it to the campfire ban.
Making it just those two. We're
That's
done.
right. And if the metrics say no campfires, then you're automatically at that point of no personal use of fireworks. And I think that covers it.
Good step. I hopefully we'll never have a fireworks related fire ever again, but that's probably.
So the only question I would have is, can we keep the trains out of Skamania County during fire season?
And how about just periods?
The wrong meeting.
Oh, wrong meeting. Okay, sorry.
Don't go with French people.
Then I would entertain a motion.
All right, well, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-1201, amending Title 8 of the Stevenson Municipal Code, adding Chapter 8.58, authorizing the restriction of personal fireworks discharged during times of recreational fire burn bans as presented, period.
Second.
I knew you guys want.
Give it to David.
Any guesses on how this vote's gonna go?
We've been waiting for that for a long
All
time.
right, we have a first and several seconds. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Ben,
All right, I've got a presentation for you on PowerPoint. Get set up here.
Christy, what screen are you seeing?
Downtown Stevenson parking report?
But like the presentation, not the notes.
No, it's the presentation.
Okay. All right, the Parking Advisory Committee over the summer organized their effort to gather more data on how downtown parking has been used. And it was very successful this time, so I'm going into that. It's a little bit different than the deep dive we did the last time, but I'll try to tie them in together.
so we interrupt you already. This is survey, right? Part of it was the parking survey, and that was done a year and a half ago in the fall.
Yep.
All right, so this one was closer to the
Right.
year season.
I got that, Mr. Mayor.
I will be patient and let you continue, Ben.
Okay, so downtown parking report. With this, we set out to answer a few questions. So first, is there enough ADA parking on the curbside downtown? Second question, is there enough parking overall in the downtown area? What should be done about our parking inventory? And then what should be done about our parking regulations? And so we're coming to answers on all of those. I certainly have answers for the first two and waiting for Parking Advisory Committee recommendations on the second two. To get to the answers though, we engaged stakeholders, we did an inventory of the parking supply. So that's where we looked at all the spaces curbside and all the lots downtown. We assessed the current usage and the future parking demand and recommending actions to balance that supply and demand. So that first question, Michael already knew the answer to this. Is there enough ADA parking downtown? The answer is a resounding no. There is not enough ADA parking downtown. The public engagement that went into this, the analysis and the effort was directly spearheaded by members of that Parking Advisory Committee. Needing ADA spaces or needing accessible spaces for their own purposes and wanting to make sure that the city's hearing them. So that Parking Advisory Committee heard them, and that's exactly where they started with looking at the issues downtown. So the overall inventory of accessible spaces is three. That's it. All three of those are down on Cascade Avenue. Two are to the east of the Stevenson Landing. One is directly to the west of the Stevenson Landing. That's separated from your downtown core by 6 rails and at least 40 feet of elevation. So that's 4 stories to get from where you would park to some place you would want to go downtown other than the farmer's markets or the businesses on Cascade Avenue. So
If I'm in a wheelchair, I'm gonna have really strong arms to push myself uphill. Yeah.
Yep.
for a long ways.
And a lot of fun going back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by any measure, that's not enough. We do have a measure about what the future demand is for accessible spaces, and that comes from the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. And so I trip over myself to make sure that we're not calling it ADA, because ADA technically doesn't apply to transportation facilities. These right-of-way guidelines would. ADA is a good shorthand, everybody knows that, but they are accessible spaces, or spaces reserved for accessible users. Using that as our standard, it says we should have 30 spaces downtown. We've got 3, we should have 30, and they should be spread out around downtown based on the total number of marked spaces around a block. So if you've got 14 spaces on this side and 3 spaces this way and 14 this way, then it has a table and says how many spaces you need on that block. We looked at that and developed a master plan to show where those could go. And so this is one of the recommendations I fully expect that parking advisory committee to make and the planning commission to endorse before this makes it to you. But 33 spaces, potential spaces downtown. Locating those, they prioritize the flat corridors. So that would be First Street and Second Street, Cascade Avenue, Rock Creek Drive, and Vancouver. So not those north-south streets of Russell, Levin, Seymour. They prioritize the flat. The ProAg prioritizes locations at intersections so that disabled user can get directly onto that accessible walking path at the crosswalk. So they're at intersections. They are located near facilities where we expect accessible users to access frequently. So recommendations currently are by the pharmacy, well, I'll get into some specifics, but and
Yeah, right in front of the pharmacy.
mhm. So the PAC hasn't recommended anything specifically. These are the slate of 5 that we'll put forward to them to see if they want to recommend those or different ones or additional. But 2 of them on First Street, 3 on Second Street. The ProAg sets up a system where when you do a major improvement to a transportation corridor, then that's when you start looking at adding ADA spaces. We expect the Parking Advisory Committee, Planning Commission to recommend doing something in advance of that. So that we've got such a need for spaces. Let's not just wait until we're required by the ProAg to do it. So they have identified them, just shown where they could be, examples. This one, top row, second from the right, is the one that would serve the pharmacy. So that's not directly in front of the pharmacy, but that'd be the low cost first option. That's right there at the crosswalk. There's a second option that would involve altering the sidewalk and creating a new sidewalk drop, removing one of the bike racks that's close to that pharmacy. And so that 2 spaces would have an accessible pathway there. That's still identified in the project. This would be the first step that we could do at any time. And some of those, there are cost estimates associated with each one of those projects. They're just all in ranges, whether it's going to be cheap or in the middle, or whether it really should be as part of a full improvement project. You've got examples of that here. So some of them would need a crosswalk in order to get to the other side where users would need to go. So those are shown on there. And the PAC would be able to recommend those for you. That's the first question on ADA. The second question on, is there enough parking overall? The public thinks that there's enough during the off season, but not the tourist season. Downtown business owners are split about 50-50, whether there's enough for their customers or not. And then we've got the usage study to truth any of these based on what we saw in the field. So
So Ben, I guess a question I have for the business owners. If A&J decided to close their parking lot to only their customers, how would the business owners feel then about a 50-50 split?
We did not ask that question, sir.
Also, just another quick question, the property just to the west of the pharmacy in the gravel parking lot, is that owned by the pharmacy?
It is.
And it is.
It's paved now, it's not gravel.
Oh, it is?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Did they mark them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
When the heck did that?
It's
After we
couple
put up
months
the
ago,
mural.
After we put up the mural.
like the week after the mural.
Yep, awesome.
For real.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, the owner
Yeah, it
was
was like
there,
a-
and he's like, oh, I need to pave this parking lot.
Yeah, it was like a week
Yes,
later,
you
it was
do.
paved. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, so that's the basis that we have to start thinking about the question of, is there enough? The Parking Advisory Committee will provide recommendations based on their understanding of everything. In order to understand what we have, we conducted an inventory. We did a full census of all the features along a block face. So 1,200 features, and we've got 11 attributes assessed for each one of those. So it's a big spreadsheet that tells us, is that marked? Is that not marked? Does it have signage prohibiting parking at all? What's the curb like? Is it just a gravel shoulder? Is there an embankment that prevents opening a door? Lots of data in there. For curbside, for off-street, it's a sample of the parking spaces. So we left out anything that was strictly residential. The lots that we included there were 74, and those served commercial purposes or mixed-use purposes. And 9 attributes assigned at the blocks level. So it's a little bit smaller spreadsheet than the other one, but still a big spreadsheet full of data. When you look at that downtown, this is what it looks like. And if you guys spent time in arcades in the 80s, this should look like Pac-Man to you. The Parking Advisory Committee, the PAC, it's the motivation for this. So it also is adequate for when you're coming into town and just need to find some place to park. You might end up turning several times. So purple on this are the off-street lots. And cyan are the curbside block faces.
Cyan. You sure?
Cyan for C for curbside, and then
Okay.
P for private purple. There's something here.
It's always the best. It's not just watch
Yeah.
out.
I know.
Okay, so we assessed how those areas were used in 2 different ways. First was a usage study where we just counted raw numbers of cars along a block face or in a parking lot. The second is a turnover study, and I'll get into the details about what the power of one is versus the other. But the turnover is you're looking at individual parking spots and the vehicles that are occupying those to see if they're there for a longer duration, if they're turning over. What communities will do for this is use that to set time limitations on parking. I'll get into it later. Our data doesn't suggest that you need to start looking at that yet. But we'll have the history, and we'll be able to see things as we assess it over time. So here you go, Mr. Mayor. In 2021, middle of September is when we conducted the study before. Thursday and a Sunday are the days that we're doing the studies on. Thursday being a general work day, and Saturday, Thursday and Saturday, and Saturday being a weekend day. So you see what the dynamics are on those different days. In September 2023, Thursday was sunny. There was a strong wind, and the max usage any hour that we observed was 35% of all the parking spaces downtown were used. That dropped quite a bit on the Saturday, which was not sunny. It was a downpour, and it was miserable to be out there with paper trying to write down the results of the study, but we got it done. 27% used, and that max hour was from 1 to 2. In 2023, we got this survey done in the summertime. This was the last full weekend before school started. So both days were sunny, both were strong wind, both days the salmon were running. Saturday, the farmer's market was happening. So you see those dynamics play out as we get into the data. 2023 is up again. I don't think I need to mention, but I should mention in 2021, we were still dealing with COVID and social distancing and things weren't as busy in general. So that's also going to be part of that dynamic. But 2023, social distancing, the concept mostly of the past. On Thursday is the busier day, the weekday. 43% of all the spaces downtown were occupied as our max hour. Again, 2 to 3, middle of the afternoon. Saturday, same hour, 1 to 2, 37%.
Then when we're talking about parking spaces, are we including parking spaces like along the east side of El Rio and at A&J's parking lot and, and all of those?
They made a decision, the parking advisory committee made a decision about which off-street lots to assess. They didn't go and review all of them, so they didn't do the Chamber El Rio. They did the county courthouse as one very large lot, publicly maintained. They did A&J as one very large lot, privately maintained. They didn't do the employee parking to the northwest, just that front area. And then all the small parking lots on Ash Alley.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the off-street lots that we did, and the lots at the boat ramp on Cascade Avenue.
Thank you.
You may or may not have done this math, and so. Yeah. But if we were to take 27 of our existing parking places and make those ADA, then that would reduce the inventory of available non-ADA parking places. So the 43% to 37% would then shift upward. Do you know by approximately how many percentage points that would be? If I'm making sense?
Yeah, so if you add those two numbers together, from our study, they come out to, I think it's 609.
So we have 609 total available. So it's not going to be a big difference.
And an unknown number of the occupied spots were somebody that had an ADA placard in their window just parking somewhere. So, and we do expect that number to increase over the next 3 years based on data from the Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities.
Our lack of ADA, whatever, of spaces would mean that same people are still parking, they're just parking in a different location. They're parking in A&J's parking lot, or they're parking, and just making do with the space that they have. So.
And this is just the downtown core.
Just the downtown core. Here what the curves look like, and I don't want you to try to get lost in the details here, but we've got data for the dashed orange line, in this case is off street. Cyan is still curbside. And then everything together. And so just, the big look back, we collected data over more hours in 2023. And we see higher usage in 2023. We've got everything there. We also tracked how many of the spaces where the volunteers that we had just didn't put it together or lost a sheet or something. And so we did much better in 2023 than we did in 2021, especially on that Saturday in the middle of the day. We just lost a
rain probably helped.
Yeah. So, yep. The peaks, like I said, are that middle of the day, noon to 4 window. When we did break it out based on core area versus the downtown as a whole. So the core area being Russell Street, First Street from Columbia to Seymour, and all of Second Street. So that's the core. We broke it out to see which areas were busy, or whether that area was busier than the overall. We've got that for 2021 and 2023. This line is one I want to focus on. This red line, the 85% line, is this 85% rule. So last time we did a deep dive on parking, I said it was about parking, but it wasn't. It was about economic policies, but it was also about parking. So this is a bridge between those. So this 85% rule, it comes from this professor Donald Shoup, who assessed how lots are used, and says that if less than 85% of the spots in a lot are used, then users feel like there's parking available. Your dynamics are working out really well. If there's more than 85% used, then people feel like there's no place to park, and you might think about adding more parking. And so we broke that out as constrained parking in red, and this will show up on the map on the next page. So constrained in red, satisfactory in orange, ample parking in yellow, and overbuilt parking in green. And so the guidance document that we had for this had different breaks, and this is kind of important for us too. The different breaks in the guidance document meant that our assessment really showed us nothing. So if we're looking at green being anything under 55, what they have, all of our green and yellow are the same color, and there's very little difference in the orange and yellow. So we spread those out a little bit for ours. And well, I guess something to highlight here. Green in this case is not good. We're used to, from a red to green scale, is okay, green's on the good side and red's on the bad side. Red's on the bad side still, but green is not good. Overbuilt.
It's surplus.
Yeah. And so here's just a figure over time. Each one of these images is 1 hour of our assessment from 7 in the morning until 5, or I guess 6 p.m.
Well, you nerded out on this, didn't
You have no idea.
you? I do.
A lot of green stuff.
Yeah. So that's a lot of green throughout the course of the day. So this is the Thursday of this year's study. That's the busier of the 2 days. Still a whole lot of green.
Can you go back there for 1 second?
Yes,
We
absolutely.
talked about when we did the deep dive, this section, like right in here, like at night, that may not be somewhere where no one would feel
Safe.
comfortable. So we were like, maybe if we adjusted certain things or had,
Mhm.
parking, there's spaces this way, or had like
Right.
directing people. I don't know if that has come up with you with this committee, but I know that.
Yeah.
it's brought up.
And so
Sorry, I
we'll
didn't
get
mean
into that as
Okay.
part of the recommendation
Okay.
too. So the you nailed it, Michael. That's a lot of green on those maps. And remember, green is not good. But it's not necessarily bad either, because it can be reserved to park, to take overflow parking, or it can accommodate new users as land develops. So it's not necessarily bad. It just is. So returning back to that question, is there enough parking? We get the statement that downtown parking is a problem. And if any downtown user saw one of those red block faces, then they're absolutely right in saying that there's a parking problem. What we saw with the data, though, is that parking problem was largely restricted to that hour when that block face was red, and it never stretched beyond 2 consecutive block faces. And so that's at a corner across from each other, going never more than 2 in a row. The longest a single block was red was 5 hours. That was Cascade Avenue across from the boat launch. And so remember when I talked about the weather and what was happening on those days, it was a salmon run and it was very windy. And what we saw there was a lot of boat trailers and a lot of trucks in the morning. And then there weren't, but there were vans and cars for people doing wind sports. And so there was this turnover. Still, we had 5 hours where that area was red. The other area, switch the order from when I gave this to the planning commission. So overall, our assessment in August of 2023, when you take the maximum usage of any block face or lot that we assessed down there, this is what was read ever, or that was the highest usage of any of those during our assessment. So that doesn't mean that downtown looked like that during any 1 hour. And so those could be the same cars in different places throughout the course of the assessment. But those are where people could have witnessed a parking problem during that hour that they witnessed it. I'm gonna highlight in on this one. That's First Street in front of Walking Man, Traverse Markets, EMS facility as an interesting one. So that one was on the Saturday, it was read for 4 hours throughout the course of that day. So that's the other area, in addition to the boat ramp, where it was worth looking at a little bit more. Here's where it starts to pick up, and it's red, it's red, it's red, it's red, and then goes back down. This is where it can get really nerdy for you, Paul. That in the benefits of that turnover study is we're able to see which specific spaces were occupied and whether those vehicles were moving throughout the course of the day. So
And you had way too much.
the
Holy cow.
individual color there along the block facement, it stayed there or it came back. I'm sorry, we have to make an inference. We took the last 3 digits of a license plate, and so we infer from 1 hour to the next that it's the same vehicle, or if it returns a couple hours later that it's the same vehicle. Can't conclude that, but we can infer that. I also wanted to highlight this one because not only was this an area where you might identify it as a true parking problem downtown, it's an area that has changed since this study was conducted. So Public Works Department was requested to officially grant a loading zone in front of Walking Man. There had been an area that had just been unpainted in the past, and no regulation behind that, or no ability to tow anybody or ticket anybody within that. So Traverse Market and Walking Man had requested a loading zone to unload something related to their product.
Green bags that are.
Is there a time frame?
There is a time frame. And so Carolyn went through with them. She was able to use the data we had from 2021 to see how busy it was in that area. And then the judgments that she made resulted in 1 new space for all hours. So that big clear area was separated into 3 spaces, one of which is accessible or usable by everyone for all hours. And then 2 spaces are available on evenings and weekends. I don't remember the specific time limitations, but
After 6.
so that's where that area was read in the past. We're looking forward to doing an assessment again to see if these additional spaces helped anything in that corridor, if it's no longer constrained or not. But that's where the rubber meets the road and how this gets used. This data can get used, and it's a parking improvement that we identified and we're able to implement since that happened. Other projects or improvements that we might do have various sources for the recommendations. Some will come and have come from the Parking Advisory Committee, Planning Commission, when they review the Parking Advisory Committee's work, Downtown Plan for Success, public preference questionnaires, and then staff analysis of these. So I've got a lot of detail. I don't expect you to look at what does each one of those say, but really start looking at the gaps between the pink and the green. So pink is what people would prefer, and green is what people witness.
It's interesting on lighting.
Yeah, and Angled parking is the big one there. People would prefer more angled parking. They don't see a lot. That's an interesting one that we've really got to tease out. The downtown planning consultants that we had were talking about how the negative effect that angled parking has for your downtown retailers, for the driving public. They're that much farther away from the product and seeing the good things that are in the store. For the walking public, you've got the nose of the car intruding over the curb space. You've got the moving car intruding into those areas too. So that's a balance that we've really got to figure out as we move into the improvement project side. The scope of the recommendations, one of these should not be yellow, and it is. I apologize for that. But there are several here. The bold text is what will come to you. And the yellow text is what will come to you. So implementing this master parking plan that will be recommended by Planning Commission and Parking Advisory Committee, clarifying where parking is available and permissible, adding to the municipal supply, both curbside and off-street, parking requirements. What happened there? For changing uses within existing development. And so that's a lot of planner speak, adaptively managing parking requirements. It didn't zoom, it switched speaker. The way that you'll see those come to you is that overall downtown master parking plan that'll have the ADA spaces, the accessible spaces identified. It'll have other improvement projects where we can add spaces on the streets. You'll see the amendment to SMC Title 10, vehicles and traffic. So that's something that you did see once already, that now that we have this data, it's just easier to present this as a whole, as a program. You'll see suggested amendments to the zoning code, downtown area and or parking overall. You'll see suggestions to reduce the parking requirements for uses downtown, and then that adaptively manage. So right now our regulations know that it's hard to add parking on site, and so that it's pretty hands-off. Once a building is there, once a use is established, you're not going to have to add new parking, and you're not going to, even though you might change the use and it would contribute to the parking problem or users to the parking problem, you don't have to be part of that solution. We've got ways to tweak that now with payment in lieu, so you can be part of the solution as you're part of the problem. And we expect those to come to you as early as next month, but certainly this winter. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing amount of work.
It's been a really good project, and it will produce a full program for you to address an issue so many different ways.
Thank you.
And this was kind of seeded by the intern that we had, right? Was kind of his name lived up over.
Yeah, Alex
Alex, that's what I thought.
Helped us set up the usage study and inventory. Well, the usage study the first time and implement that.
So has he seen all this since you?
I haven't. I need to.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
he would be amazed.
Yeah.
He really would. You did a good job on it. Thank you.
It's interesting how many people will say that there's absolutely no parking, and then I drive to Portland. I mean, myself included, will make long, walking to somewhere. I know I'm not gonna be park in front of here, so I'll park a block up here and I'll have to come around. Down here, if you can't park like in front of the door, we have no parking. Well, there's half the streets open still. You just don't want to. I mean, I understand some people it's harder to do, which is one of the accessible issues, but
yeah,
most of the time we don't really.
I skipped over it on the slide. One of the potential recommendations will be just have dialogue with the downtown workforce and businesses. Mm-hmm. And that dialogue will be that, hey, our busiest times are during the summer, during the middle of the day. And so for those areas that are constrained or might need usage for other people, we can have conversations and say, look, we don't need them to park there at night. It's icy and rainy,
Right.
summer in the middle of the day. Can we just start better using the spaces that are on Lower Russell that don't get any usage? Come in that way and park there. Can we go out to East First Street just a little bit and 3 users that make a habit of doing that and walking across the street changes the dynamic of it.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you. No. I was just wondering if any of that, any of that can be online. That's pretty impressive PowerPoint. All right. Leon. Public record review update.
So the last time we talked about this, it was back in 2020. And just in talking with Councilmember Cox, wanted to talk about it again. So the change in 2020 was the city doesn't charge at all for any public records. And previously we had been charging for paper copies. And in February, there was talk about whether or not to charge also for electronic copies. And then the conversation went to not charging at all. There is the ability for the city to charge for records, and it varies as far as how deep you want to go and how you want to charge. But the example is like we're spending a lot more time. So I started tracking our hours related to records requests in July of 2021, like mid-July. And based off of salaries on who responded to the request and the hours that they responded, just in that year alone, it was over $3,800 in salary costs. And that was mid-year. In 2022, the salary cost again was about $5,200 based on the hours and the staff responding. And right now we have 3 outstanding requests. And so the hours for those aren't in here, and we're almost at $4,200 of staff time. So it's and the numbers and the volumes vary as well. You know, it could be one records request for, like, we get standard records requests. It's just a matter of running a stock report that we have, and so it doesn't take very long. Other records requests can be very time consuming. So that's just how things are going. One of the things that we're working on trying to get on board, and so hopefully we'll have time in 2024, is to apply to a local records grant through the State Archives Office. And the goal of that is to further leverage our Laserfiche to have a public facing portal, but to set it up with folders and restrictions and things to make it easier for the public to access those records. We're not there yet. And then, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that we're working on, is trying to go paperless, more or less, you know, trying to do a scan and toss policy as well. So only keeping what we need to, and making sure that we're doing that review on a regular basis. As far as what we can charge, like I said, it varies. We can do an analysis to see how much it cost us. The state, so in the document that's attached to the council packet, the state has set charges that you can just adopt. You can also just do a flat $2 per request. And there's pluses and minuses to all of that. The $2 is the easiest to implement because we don't have to do any counting or tracking. So, you know, while we would collect funds through even adopting the state fee for scanning records or sending records that have already been scanned. We would then have to then calculate the cost on the back end. So just, which we don't have to do now, so it's just something to consider. We are working on a resolution overall to put all of our fees onto one document. So that will come to council and then coming months. The goal is when we update our water fees, we'll add it, we'll put it all on one.
Are there restrictions on what can be charged? I mean, you can't charge $1 million a request, for example.
If that's how much it costs, I highly
PRRs
doubt
you're
that's
talking
what.
Public
There's,
record?
yeah, there's no limit, like it's, so there's. Hang on, Terry.
No, 1 second.
Have a
So-
seat, Terry.
You're going down a slippery
Have a
slope.
No, so the
Don't
document,
sue.
the document that I pulled and presented to council is from the Washington State. It's through MRSC. It was the Washington State Archives, or the Washington State Attorney General's office. So that is a document from the Attorney General's office as far as what we can legally charge.
But didn't he just lose a big lawsuit because of PRRs? $1.25 million lawsuit, $286,000 in legal fees.
We're not doing public comment on this part.
Well,
So I am just presenting information to council. We're not deciding on anything at
okay,
this
well,
point
when
in time.
public comment comes, I have a public comment.
Public comment.
So,
I think you can be.
so again,
issue.
this is what has been presented through Municipal Research Services Center, as well as the state attorney general's office, as far as what we could charge, if that is what council chooses to do.
And one of the reasons that I brought this up with Liana is I have a real burn when it comes to our tax dollars being spent. When I know what kind of pressure our staff is under. And it's not about my right to be able to access the information or anything like that. It's all about economics and whether or not we are recouping the tax dollars that are going out to specific requests. And if, in my opinion, if you are requesting additional information about some record, you should be prepared to reimburse the taxpayers for that request. We're not here to provide free information.
No.
And it's not about my right to have that information. You can have the information, but there needs to be some mechanism in place where the taxpayers can recoup their costs for the information that you are requesting. And that is my issue.
So is this going to be open for public comment at some future date when the ordinance or resolution comes up for discussion? Because you've opened up a can of worms here.
This is a discussion topic, though. They aren't voting on anything, so.
When is the public going to be able to make public comment on what is going to come up?
It's a slippery slope you guys are going down. I'm telling you right now. And Robert, you know that legally, they're going down a slippery slope.
Well, no, but Perry, I don't appreciate you jumping in at this
Well,
point. They're having a conversation. You can listen to it, and when we get to that point,
She's
you can
asked a
bring.
very important question.
And I just said, if there's a resolution or ordinance that's presented, we will follow the guidelines for the publication and the public comment those here. But right now, they're just having a general discussion about those topics.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's trying to make any decisions here. So from a legal standpoint, we just want to keep the
That's what I was
conversation
asking.
going. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
And again, it was a conversation between me and Liana about how our tax dollars were being spent.
Yes.
So,
And on public records, ideally, it would be free and open, and when you needed it, you would just go get it. It would be no big deal. But there are some people who are malicious in their intent, and they want to either bog down the efficiency of the office, or they're fishing for a lawsuit. And those are what you want to prevent. I mean, right? I mean,
Well, I'm not about preventing them getting,
no, I mean either, but the people with malicious intent, I have no patience for them. None. I mean, if you have a genuine public request, cool, have at it. If you're fishing for a lawsuit, if you're just trying to fish a lawsuit, yeah, no sympathy for me, man.
You got
There's not really
specifics
a
on that?
mechanism to
Still just a discussion.
sort that out.
You got specifics
And-
though, you're making.
The only limit we have
Comment right now.
is commercial use of records. That's the only,
I'm just concerned
No, I know, I
about the
understand.
amount of time that we are spending and not able to recoup any of those tax dollars back from those individual requests. That's all that my concern was.
All
Wasn't
governing
about-
bodies are dealing with this and it's
Oh,
been going on for
Yeah,
10,
and I
15
understand
years.
that. I
Yeah.
understand that.
But I mean, we open and transparent. We're gonna follow the law. We're gonna provide the access that we're required to. Obviously, it's unfortunate when somebody who lives in Texas does a public records request up here because there's no purpose for it. So that's where people tend to perceive it's a malicious purpose. and
How
it's
often
not.
does that happen?
Well, actually, we've had a few over the last 10 years, yeah, you know.
10 years.
Well, and I say that only because that's when I came on council back then, so. But, you know, again, people are entitled to those questions, but
Yeah.
you know, when you even get somebody from Bellevue, all of a sudden they're interested in our public works projects here, what's the purpose for that, really?
Mhm.
But they're entitled to that, so we can't bar them, because statewide they're
That's
entitled.
America, it's American.
Well, it's PRA, I don't know about American. But the legislature doesn't do anything to hone it.
Transparency, you know,
I-
Otherwise, let's just have secret meetings all the time and not keep the public informed about anything, right, Robert?
Would you let the council finish up their meeting here, Perry? You and I can talk.
My understanding with the fees that are permitted with public records is it doesn't get anywhere close to covering the costs that we're
Correct.
talking about.
$5,000.
So like,
Correct.
to my mind, there's really no point in charging because it doesn't address your concerns. We can't do that.
Yeah, and the economic argument, I'm not on your side there. Because the purpose of government is not to be a successful business. You know, the purpose of government is to make life better for everyone.
Right.
Well, in theory, Paul, way back in 1776.
Sure.
Ah, we still weren't square even then. Come on now.
But even if it costs,
Couple of holes to put us in.
you know, even if it costs a little money
You say I don't
to,
have to drink tea.
from the general fund, it's a worthwhile expenditure,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Unless somebody has malicious intent, then, yeah, no sympathy.
But then,
Well,
No
no sympathy,
sympathy,
no
but you
sympathy.
still
is
have to
how
give
it's
them
how
a
it
record.
works.
You do.
They're not- We're talking about the possibility of a fee. The fee is never gonna be the amount of, if it takes 2 man hours and that is this much money, we're not ever gonna charge that. We're talking whether it's gonna be, I don't know if you guys read the options, there were different options, and the $2 now, $2 I think doesn't, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But the idea is we're never gonna recoup the cost. So setting something that doesn't give more work to the staff at the end of the day, are we gonna count pages? Are we gonna count going with a standard that they sent us, that we can just adopt because that's what they have been passed down to us is an option. Anyway, I know this is just a discussion, but we're never going to know who has malicious intent. Yeah, we can, it can be inferred by what we're seeing, but we can't change that. We're still gonna give the record. So the idea, and we're never gonna recoup the cost. So finding something that works for the staff. And if that's not counting the pages and differentiating between what we had to scan in versus what was already scanned in, and then we had to email and then the amount of attachments and like whatever that looks like. If that's more work, then it's gonna be worth on our end, then we need to work on something else. So we just need we'll consult with staff, and obviously this is a discussion that won't be cleared up today. That's my opinion.
Well, malicious intent is subjective.
Yeah.
The whole idea is to promote transparency in government, but that concept is twisted to do spying on what your neighbor might be doing, what business they have with the city. Using this concept of transparency to go outside for means that aren't, or for evidence that is not part of that, shouldn't have part of it, but because that is an opportunity, an avenue that can be pursued. And that's the part where it's using
Welcome
this
to-
concept
Yes.
for information or attaining information.
Yep.
For a completely different purpose.
Can't get into the public records request. And so therefore, we need to make sure that we handle them all correctly. And by whatever laws are there to govern those public records requests. And we need to provide the information. It's just that I am concerned about the amount of time that it takes to run public records requests through with our staff on all the other things that they are currently working on. So that's, yeah. Okay. That's why I brought it up.
Any other comments? Thoughts? Right. So, as was the case this morning, Liana has waited till pretty much the bottom of the order to trot out some really good news. So give us some really good news.
So the great news is that we are able to get a lower interest loan and a grant for the Cascade Avenue Utility Upgrades Project. And so what that project is, the sewer line along Cascade Avenue, which is the waterfront, is undersized for existing use. And so rather than only do the sewer line when we have an AC water line, which is aging and susceptible to breakage once we open up the trench.
Would you explain what AC is for some of the folks that don't know?
Sometimes I try not to. It's asbestos concrete, which is fine when it stays wet. It does not, there's no health hazard when it stays wet. And so that's what the city still has a lot of those lines in, and it's one of our goals to get rid of those, as well as with this project, implementing a dig once policy. And so this project would replace the water line, which is longer than just the sewer line. So it would be basically from the boat launch to Russell Avenue. As well as improving some streetscaping and increasing lighting. So I believe it was either earlier this year or last year, people came to us, and I believe it was the port that came to us and said that they were concerned about safety down there and the lack of lighting. And so what this would do is it would add lighting on the improved portions of Cascade Avenue, as well as some bushes and some landscaping to kind of create a better barrier between the railroad tracks and the sidewalk on the north side of the street. And we would add irrigation in there. And we're working on getting a grant through the 0.09 funds to do that portion of the work. So this is just the first phase of getting grants. That's about $200,000 that I'll ask through that from that pot of money as well. So that's sort of the project in a nutshell. And it will allow for not only existing businesses to continue, it will also allow for growth of one of our only industrial areas in Skamania County. So.
City staff, right?
Well, motion to accept the Public Works Board financing offer of $1,902,300 in loan funding at an interest rate of 1.38% for a 20-year term and a grant of $335,700 for the Cascade Avenue Utility Upgrades Project.
First and a second, any further discussion? Say aye.
I,
Aye.
Good job, city staff. All right, do have some information items in your packet. Then staff report.
Staff report, one of the big ones as it relates to your strategic plan is that effort. And so that is coming together, as you saw, and I'm excited about that. As the planning commission readies itself to look at that, they're also looking to the future to see what they want to take up for their work plan for 2024. So they've got your strategic plan and seeing where they may want to fill in. They're already working on the annexation policy, waiting for some of the sewer decisions before they're able to dive back into that. And then I anticipate some housing zoning related effort to follow on that heels there, but remains to be seen what they'll pick. Parks plan is underway. Right now, there is a community questionnaire that's going around. It's offers two options. One is a general questionnaire and another is a interactive web map where you can drill in and say, this is exactly where I want to park and I need this sort of facility at that location too. So please use it. Please share it. Please get the word out. We're collecting those until the 20th of this month. On the 6th of next month, the coalition that we're leading, so the county officials, port officials, school, pool, and city will get together for design charrette to start looking at those things that the community said that they wanted, and they'll bring their ideas, and the landscape architects will have their markers and pens and start sketching out ideas. Say, is this what you're thinking? That'll likely serve that sort of need. And once those projects are identified and start to come together, they'll form the basis of a plan that they'll develop cost estimates for those. And
Is that the one on the 6th of December?
yeah. So it's coming together. We fully intend and are on schedule to get that to you also in winter of 2024. So it's coming along. Shenandoah did record their plat. They met all the conditions that you had established at the last meeting, and they've recorded that, and those lots have begun to sell. So on to the next phase. Next phase being construction of homes, not phase of the. So,
Shenandoah's done.
yeah.
It's done.
All built out. You got all the money.
20 years later.
Been that long.
It's probably 15.
06? 06?
Yeah, almost 20 years.
Like that, Carol.
All right, so I've got my list as always. Not as handy as I ever want it to be because there's a lot of lists. Okay, in the water world, we had Department of Health out to do a sanitary survey. Their report is forthcoming. I spoke with one of the gentlemen that did the survey earlier today, and in general, was really happy with our system. We provided a little bit of additional information. We are advancing quality and quantity evaluation of Pegwald well. We stuck a transducer in the well just last Friday, which will measure static water levels throughout the season to capture fluctuations in groundwater table. with the weather or, with the rain. In the wastewater side, the plant upgrades continue. There is a contract modification on the table that they've requested to extend the completion date into early 2025. As a general note, again, supply issues and vendors not being able to provide what they commit to being able to provide. Stormwater, you guys have probably seen, there's lots of sweeping going on. They're out probably every other day, just getting the leaves cleaned up. They've been tackling plugged culverts as well as identifying culverts that their bottoms have started to rot out. So there'll be a few replacements in the coming weeks. On the street front, you may or may not have noticed, but the vacant tree wells in the downtown area on First and Second now have trees in them. The crew worked on planting trees early last week, or maybe it was late last week. Additionally, we're working on, there are a couple stumps that have not yet had their trees replaced. They'll need to be ground. And so we're coordinating with the county to have that work done all at the same time. They have some trees to grind as well, lots more than we do. Let's see, we're also working on an adopt a tree program to help support the care of our downtown and trees around the city. Through that, sidewalk replacement and repairs will be occurring in the next month or so, he assures me. And our first street overlook final design kickoff meeting was just this last week, so that's great. You guys didn't see a final design contract because after some negotiation, we were able to get it cut in half. So it no longer was met the threshold for discussion here. So that's a win. That funding package is coming together between the feds and TIB. And we have some ideas for other funding sources to make that project work without requiring much use of our funds, our revenue. We are working on the RFQ for construction management, should be out by the end of this year, and construction contract advertisement is likely for that project will likely be in early March. Equipment. There was supposed to be a surplus, just like a other item.
It's on the consent agenda.
Oh, it's on the consent agenda. Okay, perfect. We're surplusing a grader or a sander that we haven't used in years. So clearing up some space. In the personnel kind of category, we will be holding an AC pipe training on December 12th. We're hosting one from it's Wetrick. It's like a resource group that does a lot of trainings for water and sewer folks. But that we will open up, or we have opened up. We've been communicating to folks on our small works roster that do work in the area to see if that's something that they would be interested in attending, as well as reaching out to PUD, county, cities on both ends, Finch and White Salmon, Washougal, Camas. So trying to cast that net pretty wide, because typically people have to go all the way up to Auburn for that training. So bringing it into in-house is much more cost effective because we have new people and we do work around that, that material.
Are you gonna model
The big suit.
Oh, no, it's not. I attended it up in Auburn and I was like, this is a terrifying training. We need to look at this as a group. I mean, I'm confident that they're doing what they need to do when they, when they come in contact with AC pipe, but those trainings never hurt. That's all I have. If there's any questions?
A question on the contract with
Which one?
with the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
You said that you've got another extension on the table
Mhm.
to 2025.
The 5-month ad, so that puts us in January, I think.
And this is what the third or fourth extension they've requested.
It's for the same piece of equipment that caused the delay in the first place.
Okay, so are we still locked in to the original price of that piece of equipment? Or do we pay market value at the time in 2028 when they finally decide to be able to get it?
They bid the contract at a certain price.
Yes,
And that is what
that's what we're
they're
saying.
held to.
That's
The
all I
bigger-
wanna know, because I don't want this to turn into a Scammia County Jail thing.
They're working,
The bigger cost impact is the inspection, additional
Yeah,
inspection costs.
yes.
As they stretch it out, our inspection continues, and so
And who pays for that?
I think they're.
We
gonna
do.
Try to get, yeah.
Well,
So
then-
that's what the last contract adjustment was for, was that additional 300 and some odd $1,000 was for additional inspection costs, because when they had initially proposed their schedule, they proposed a demobilization and then a remobilization, and they haven't demobilized. And so we were continuing to pay those inspection costs.
We need to make a change. We need to fix that.
We
can't
are
afford-
doing
we
all
can't
that we
afford to be
can, we are
paying-
doing all that we can within the confines of the contracts in Washington state law.
Do they have a bond?
They do.
Robert?
All right, I can tell you that when the equipment comes in, we can sell it for triple. I got clients waiting for the same piece of equipment 2 years out. And that's, it makes no sense to me on that side, but from a contract side, yes, they gotta deliver at that price. The fact they haven't demobbed, that's probably a question we can talk about. And if they do demob, do we then absolve ourselves of additional special inspections while they're offsite?
That's a good question.
But it's a contract negotiation we have to do, and you can go beat on them just like you did on
Hey,
Terry.
just like I did on law enforcement. Go to the table.
Sure, sure.
And,
Right, Paul?
Wallace is doing the best to ensure that the costs, that their time is used efficiently. So.
And I can appreciate that.
Mhm.
But I'm also watching dollars go out the door because they can't fulfill their contract. They're the ones that signed it.
They're fulfilling it, they're just fulfilling it at a different pace.
Well, then they're not fulfilling the
Very
contract
slow, but
because there were timelines on the contract.
Yeah, and the initial extension was approved. The second one,
Well,
maybe
I
it
don't
is
even
worth
know what-
checking.
David, what I
talking
would
about.
propose is just, I got 2 arbitrations coming, right after maybe mid-December, you and I sit down with the contract and we can talk about what options are there. If we can find some pressure points to push without losing final construction of the
Right.
project.
We'll
But yeah, we can
Talk.
sit down and talk through all those.
talk more about this.
Don't you love me kicking the dog, Leona? Not really. Well, just,
Yeah, I feel the same way, Dave.
I had called the engineers when they told us that it wasn't gonna be ready until the end of next year, till fall of 2024. So I'm hopping mad. What is the story here? And talk me out of my tree, but it's like, how long is this supposed to take? Are we paying the money? And when it comes down to a part that nobody can get, our hands are tied.
Yeah.
But
you know, the world is awfully large.
Yeah, there's also something, some stuff you don't wanna go and just try to find on your own. 'cause you're gonna get
I
not with
understand that
somebody.
too.
So,
I understand that too.
I'm irritated about the lack of demobilization, the
Yeah.
increased inspection costs, like part, whatever, like, but that's the ouch.
We'll go.
Mhm.
Thank you.
anything else, Carol?
No.
No?
So couple of one question, but a couple of things before we get to that one. One is, the state auditor's office offers a cybersecurity checkup. And, I believe I'll be looking into that because if we make improvements to some of our IT, we can get increased insurance through our insurance carrier. Right now, we don't meet a threshold. And so that's one of the goals, is to ensure that we're adequately covered for any risks that we take on. So that'll just be hopefully a couple of hours of staff time and maybe done by the end of the year. So we'll see. And then the Park Plaza flyers will be going out next week for a survey, and that will be going out countywide. And I mean, I think you saw the check for just the postage. We haven't gotten the bill yet for the flyers. Over right, yeah, that was so over 8,000 of them are going out. And next or tomorrow is when we'll be meeting to go over just kind of like the initial design review, based off of the initial cost of the full project that's currently on the board in front of the plaza. We should be able to get to a project that we can pay for. So there's just, again, some value engineering and some changes to the design that can make it more
Tearing
affordable.
down to make it.
Well, one of the things that they noticed was there were a lot, the slope and what they wanted to do required a lot of retaining walls in essence. And so if you can reduce the amount of retaining walls that you have, so make it more gradual slope, if you are wanting to have like a terraced type of plaza, it could be more cost effective. So it can be done. That's the good news. And so, like I said, we'll look at some options on how that can happen tomorrow. And I mean, there are 3 different types of designs that they showed me kind of like preliminarily, and I think they're all workable. So
Already done, like, working core samples that they were out doing.
yeah, so they were doing core samples, not drilling a well, to do the geotechnical tests. They've also done a survey of the property as well up there, and just again trying to figure out where people will be coming from to access it, whether it be from the courthouse or from First Street or Second Street or Russell. Yeah. And then the last question I have is about the budget presentation, the online platform that we're using for the budget. Is that the reason why I ask is because it costs thousands of dollars, and if we don't use it and if it's not useful, then I will stop paying for it. But last year was kind of like the first year to try to use it. This year we're kind of fully utilized it. If I don't know that it's getting the use that it should.
Based on visitation numbers or?
We don't even have visitation numbers on it, so. But. So. Does council, did you visit the website? Did you look at it and did you use it and did it work for you? I guess is the question.
Those 3 questions.
I'm sorry, lots of questions.
Objection.
No,
Right.
because I rely on your spreadsheets. If you,
And did those
those are
spreadsheets?
adequate for me.
Okay. Okay, and I can give you what I've given in the past to see if there's a major difference in that data. So,
Yeah,
I mean, did you,
no,
okay.
It's not worth thousands of dollars.
Okay, okay.
Doesn't that make it easier for the public?
Well, that might be worth that.
It depends. Because again, the same data would be available in a PDF.
Yeah.
So,
Just saving the cost and the interactive nature of it.
yeah.
Why
See-
don't we get Google Analytics on that so that we can get numbers to see who is visiting it and utilizing it?
I can see if I can have them pull that data.
In my mind, I mean, it does absolutely makes it, easier to digest in some ways for sure.
Mhm.
But is it the cost, as taxpayers, thousands of dollars to
Right.
make it easier to digest, because it was absolutely functional with the spreadsheets and going through and looking and comparing the years and all that stuff. Like it was the data was there.
Right.
It's just, sure, I like looking at the charts a lot better if it's color coded and pie charts. It was way more fun, but is that worth?
Well, and I can
Yeah.
do the color coding and pie charts and stuff too, like that's. Yeah, so.
You can. You can. I
And
know,
that's
for
all
me.
the other things you're doing.
Well, well, that's the other
Give
thing
it
too, is
a-
I thought it would save time, but it's actually more work.
It's not saving time.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
saving
what
time.
was
It,
going
it
to
was,
save
I
time.
thought it would save time, but
Right.
it's not because they have it very locked down. And I can't manipulate it the way that I thought I was gonna be able to, and I have to give them in data a week ahead of time. And we're a little bit more nimble than that. We're not a large agency that needs it so locked in. So.
job of
So that makes it.
Well, I
even-
know, but I wanted to get feedback from others first before I gave mine.
Well, if it doesn't make your life easier,
So,
that's even worse that we're spending money on something.
But again, if people saw value in it,
Right, but one of the big pluses that
Then
we
I could
saw
see about
and the
making it
reason
work.
we kind of looked for it was gonna save you time.
Right,
And
yes.
energy and make
Yeah.
it so you didn't have to do things three times.
Easier to push it out.
But
So far you haven't proven.
it hasn't happened.
right, that was
Yes,
the,
yeah.
that was the idea. So if it's
So,
not
yeah.
meeting that,
Okay.
then for me, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it'd be interesting to see the Google Analytics numbers on
Yeah.
who's visiting it.
Mhm.
It's a good call.
I'll see if I can get that.
Sure.
Okay.
As Christie hits click, 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 click.
Right.
Just sitting there.
Christy's at her house right now. going,
Yeah.
Thank
Pumping
you.
up those numbers.
Today it is just skyrocketing.
Same address, hit this website 1,000 times.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. That was all I had. Thanks.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
Well played.
I'll second.
First and a second, any discussion? All fair say aye.
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 All righty. Mayor and council reports. Does anybody in council have anything for the greater good? Something.
Other than our law enforcement contract went through,
Yay,
Right.
good work.
we had quite a discussion about that and, they came in at, wanting 150,000 for 2 years. We ended up at 50,000 this year, 50,000 next year with CPI and then,
And then if their budget
the
increases
budget
from
ends
the initial,
from
yeah.
24 to 25, if it goes over, that percentage will be added to their 2025 amount. But that also includes if they have any budget extensions.
Yeah.
And so that budget extension does not count towards that percentage of increase. You understand what I'm saying? That kind of. In other words, if they have a
Figure it out
$1.5
next
million
year.
budget and they have a budget extension of 500,000. That's the budget line that we talk about
Mhm.
for any increase above and beyond that. In other words, if they go above and beyond that 1.5 million, then that's the percentage that we're talking about. We're not talking about back to the original amount.
I think it's from the initial amount, the initial budgeted amount for 24. To the end of 24, though. This is
But
budgeted for
if they have a
24.
supplemental budget
Okay.
for 24.
Right.
We aren't gonna pay for that percentage on top of that, because that's all part of the 24. That's the way I understand it.
We'll figure it out. We'll look at it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway, it
How I
was
wrote
a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I thought the sheriff and the undersheriff both, they did a really good job.
Seeing where you were.
It really was a good conversation.
We've come a long way since 2010 when I sat there with Sheriff Brown and said, you get what you get, but you don't throw a fit. And we walked out of the meeting. Sorry, I got four tickets next week.
And
too,
I was
so-
I was on that end of the conversation at the time.
Yes, exactly. Come a long way. Well, we also did yearly contracts. Now you do buy it.
Oh, okay.
Lots of good.
Mhm.
All right, I have something. This is David's last meeting.
Oh.
So by the next meeting, the election will be ratified, and we'll have a new
Certified.
certified, we'll have a new city council member here. So, can you take a picture here in a moment?
Sure.
I haven't seen a process move that quickly from interview to swearing in to sitting at the table was about 10 minutes. Just like that, you're voting on stuff for the city. So for that service,
funny.
I thank you very much.
Yeah, get David there. Yeah.
The flag,
Dave.
flag or the calendars and everything.
Portrait
There you
mode,
go.
portrait mode.
Whoa.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
No one knows it's calendar.
Ready?
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah.
So
We'll fix it.
and for your dedicated service, we very much appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Does your kid keep this too?
He does.
Oh, yeah, I got a collection of them. Come on, you got it. Take the whole thing. Yeah, don't leave it. Probably 2 years, you're gonna get sucked back in here.
You know where he is, so.
Exactly.
Okay, so last bit of housekeeping, is there anything that the group would like to see on the agenda for next week?
We have the rate update.
Public hearing, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. We'll be meeting with them a week after Thanksgiving to go over that, so, yep.
All right, wonderful. Meeting adjourned, 8:02.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Good to see you.
Out for the December meeting?
A bunch.
Yeah, you got a bunch of signatures.
Bunch.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see what you're following.
I'll talk to you.
No problem.
Sorry, one second.
No, no, no,
I
no.
know, I don't want you to leave it.
Oh.
I have a couple things to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.